welcome back to Afternoon Express right here on S3, where we are encouraging you to open up to incredible divine recipes. Now let's dive straight into our first great food combination, Boerewors and chakalaka, one of my faves, but our version went to varsity. So we're serving you Boerewors corn dogs with a tomato and chakalaka sauce. Tumi.
Friend, it went to varsity in America.
Okay.
Because now we're taking it a whole other level. I mean, if Boerewors on a chakalaka, tell me if there's ever been a braai that you've gone to where that combination was not there.
Girl, from a braai to breakfast the next morning. One thing about me, I love a good Boerewors and chakalaka for breakfast on toast.
So we're going to do that now. We're going to put a bit of a spin on our favorite combo. And it starts with basically the dough, or rather the batter that we're going to dip our corn dogs in. So normally, corn dogs would be using some sort of sausage, a Vienna, something like that. But because we're keeping it local and we're talking about those combos, we've decided to use Boerewors.
I love that. I mean, here on the show on Afternoon Express, we have made corn dogs quite a bit, whether it's celebrating international cuisine, taking us all the way to America, or just being able to open up our brains and our minds to different flavor combinations. But this is brilliant for me, adding Boerewors inside the corn dog.
And my friend, you know, when you talk about the chakalaka, most people might think we're going to put it in your aibo. We're making a nice dipping sauce, which is what you'll be on the duty on today. So we've got some of our chakalaka already made over there, and we're just adding a couple of different flavor elements today to sort of elevate it, but to make this recipe come together as one.
Absolutely. So right here, just to add the tomato sauce and chakalaka mixture, we have some sriracha sauce that's going to bring in that heat.
Yeah, bo.
You know, I'm such a huge fan of spicy food.
We know you, Pali. I'm sure all of South Africa knows now that Pali is not just hot, she likes hot things.
One thing about me. And we've also got, though, to just balance out the flavors, because tomato sauce and chakalaka can be quite strong, very pungent, that tomatoey flavor. So we're adding some brown sugar just to kind of mellow it out, add that sweetness. My mom always used to say if I'm making a pasta or if I'm making mince and I add too much tomatoes, or the tomato flavor and taste and paste hasn't completely worked out, you add some brown sugar.
I knew she raised a good one.
she raised a good one. Then, of course, the tomato sauce that we've promised you.
So ideally what you want to do, if you wanted to perhaps thicken it up and make it almost like a caramelly sauce, like a nice deep sauce, what you could do is just the tomato sauce, the sugar and the sriracha, cook it down a bit so that the sugar's dissolved and it gets a little thicker. Then add it into your chakalaka just to give it a bit of additional flavor.
I'm going to try that next time. I'm a chef's pro tip. Chef's pro tip.
Girl.
And over here, friend, ooh, this lemon.
That's my girl. So while you're doing that, Bali, and mixing up our sauce, I'm just going to show you how we make the actual batter. In here, I've already added some of my dry ingredients. I've got my sugar and salt. And then in here, we're going with some corn flour. Normally, how they would do it in America, they'd use something called cornmeal. So if you want something that is closest to cornmeal, we're talking about your braai pap, just dry pap, or just normal maize meal, or even polenta if you've got some polenta in the house. So anything along those lines, that like maize type, that's what you could use just to get that texture. Because the one thing that makes corn dogs so signature is that those little specks of maize as you're biting into it. So we've got our dry and our wet mix here. I'm going to move these babies over just so you can see the assembly line. Into our dry mix, I'm going in with our wet, which is our eggs and our milk, and mixing these two together. And ideally, you don't want a mixture that's too runny like a pancake batter. You want it to still be a little thick so that it holds on to your mixture here, which is our corn dogs and our mozzarella, because we're adding a bit of a touch to it. It is important as well not to over mix your batter, because you don't want to activate the gluten. You still want it to be almost like a cakey texture, you know?
Yeah, the texture of these corn dogs are brilliant. I mean, you've already halved it for me, just so that we're able to see the batter on the outside. And the Boerewors cook perfectly on the inside.
Exactly. So what it is important to do is make sure you cook your Boerewors beforehand, so that when you're going to add all the other elements to it, it's already cooked through. All we're doing is just getting that beautiful brown color on the outside of our corn dog. So normally what we'd want is we could dip this into a nice little glass and let the batter, slide through on the sides and basically get nice and thick. I've put our mozzarella at the tip of our corn dog here. And
so definitely, I think if you are able to get a glass, just dip it into the glass.
Correct.
But do Tumi, that mozzarella will melt up perfectly.
It will melt up perfectly, but lucky for us, because we've put enough of our batter on the outside, it's just going to get nice and golden brown on the outside, stay nice and soft in the center, so when you bite into your corn dog, you've got this beautiful texture on this, the melt-away cheese, and then the sauce, the Boerewors on the outside. Dip it. My friend, you can't even speak because you're just enjoying this beautifulness that I'm talking about,
I
right?
quite literally just had my taste tester. It is so good. But it completely has all of the flavors of a normal American corn dog, but with that South African flair.
Right.
The chakalaka sauce is perfect. It's really not too hot. And of course, the Boerewors itself, magnifique.